The US has denied that it has any ulterior motives for inviting India to the G7 summit in Munich. Now, the US said that India has been invited to the G7 meeting because the agenda is deep and diverse, and not because the US was trying to splinter them off Russia. This clarification was made by US National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby on Friday, when he was questioned why developing nations like India, Indonesia, and South Africa were invited to the G7 summit.
It is not about trying to splinter them off or coax them away from any other association or partnership that they might have with another country. That's not the goal here. The goal is to unify around a set of common principles that the G7 wants to advance in terms of climate change, energy and food security.
India and the US are key strategic partners. Earlier, amid reports of a spike in Indian energy imports from Russia, the US had maintained that New Delhi is a key strategic partner in the Indo-Pacific region, and that the US lets India speak about their economic policies. However, at the same time, Washington stressed that it wants as much international pressure on Russia as possible. For its part, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar earlier this month had hit back against criticism of India's oil purchases from Russia amid the war in Ukraine. Defending India's oil imports, Jaishankar said it was important to consider how the war was impacting developing countries. He also questioned why only India was being questioned, while Europe continued to import gas from Russia. Now, for more on this, our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhan Civil, brings us the latest from Munich.
The US has said that India has been invited at the G7 summit because the agenda is deep and diverse, and the aim is not to splinter away from Russia. Now, we know that India has good relationship with Russia, and just one day before we saw the Indian Prime Minister participating at the BRICS meeting, and now, of course, we know that the Indian Prime Minister will be landing here in Germany on Sunday to participate at the G7 summit. Now, this is the third time that Indian Prime Minister will be at the G7 summit, but this time, of course, the G7 summit happens in the backdrop of Russian invasion of Ukraine, something that is going to strongly dominate the agenda. We do expect when it comes to the G7 grouping, they're going to strongly come out against President Putin, announcing perhaps new sanctions, and of course, as the German Chancellor has said, a Marshall Plan for the Ukrainian reconstruction. So, a lot of things on the anvil, but of course, India playing an important role. India, of course, at the BRICS as well, and now at the G7 as well, where, of course, the Indian Prime Minister is expected to have meetings with other world leaders. He, of course, later goes to UAE as well. But largely, if we look at how things are panning out, it is a reaffirmation from New Delhi's side towards its partners, allies, whether it's in Moscow, whether it's in Washington, Brussels, London, or here in Germany, with this engagement, BRICS or the G7. With video journalist Ajit Siddhan for WION in Munich, Germany.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.